Book 12, The Argument. The angel Michael continues from the flood to relate what shall succeed. Then, in the mention of Abraham, comes by degrees to explain who that seed of the woman shall be, which was promised Adam and Eve in the fall. His incarnation, death, resurrection, and ascension, the state of the church till his second coming. Adam, greatly satisfied and recomforted by these relations and promises, descends the hill with Michael, wakens Eve, who all this while had slept, but with gentle dreams composed to quietness of mind and submission. Michael in either hand leads them out of paradise, the fiery sword waving behind them, and the cherubim taking their stations to guard the place. As one who in his journey baits at noon, though bent on speed, so here the archangel paused, betwixt the world destroyed and world restored, if Adam aught perhaps might interpose, then with transition sweet new speech resumes. Thus thou hast seen one world begin and end, and man as from a second stock proceed. Much thou hast yet to see, but I perceive thy mortal sight to fail. Objects divine must needs impair and weary human sense. Henceforth, what is to come I will relate. Thou therefore give due audience and attend this second source of men, while yet but few, and while the dread of judgment past remains fresh in their minds, fearing the deity with some regard to what is just and right, shall lead their lives and multiply apace, laboring the soil and reaping plenteous crop, corn, wine, and oil, and from the herd or flock, oft sacrificing bullock, lamb, or kid, with large wine offerings poured and sacred feast, shall spend their days in joy unblamed, and dwell long time in peace by families and tribes under paternal rule. Till one shall rise, of proud ambitious heart, who not content with fair equality fraternal state, will arrogate dominion undeserved over his brethren, and quite dispossess concord and law of nature from the earth. Hunting, and men, not beasts, shall be his game, with war and hostile snare, such as refuse subjection to his empire tyrannous. A mighty hunter, thence he shall be styled before the Lord, as in despite of heaven, or from heaven claiming second sovereignty, and from rebellion shall derive his name, though of rebellion others he accuse. He with a crew whom like ambition joins with him or under him to tyrannize, marching from Eden towards the west, shall find the plain wherein a black bituminous gurge boils out from underground, the mouth of hell, of brick, and of that stuff they cast to build a city and a tower, whose top may reach to heaven, and get themselves a name, lest far dispersed in foreign lands their memory be lost, regardless whether good or evil fame. But God, who oft descends to visit men unseen, and through their habitations walks, to mark their doings, them beholding soon, comes down to see their city, ere the tower obstruct heaven towers, and in derision sets upon their tongues a various spirit, to raise quite out their native language, and instead to sow a jangling noise of words unknown. Forthwith a hideous gabble rises loud among the builders. Each to other calls not understood, till hoarse and all in rage, as mocked they storm, great laughter was in heaven, and looking down to see the hubbub strange, and hear the din. Thus was the building left, ridiculous, and the work confusion named. Whereto thus Adam, fatherly displeased, O execrable son, so to aspire above his brethren, to himself assuming authority usurped from God not given. He gave us only over beast, fish, fowl, dominion absolute, that right we hold by his donation, but man over men he made not lord. Such title to himself reserving, human left from human free, by this usurper his encroachment proud, stays not on man, to God his tower intends, siege and defiance. Wretched man, what food will he convey up thither to sustain himself and his rash army, where thin air above the clouds will pine his entrails gross, and famish him of breath if not of bread? To whom thus Michael: Justly thou abhorrest that son, who on the quiet state of men such trouble brought, affecting to subdue rational liberty. Yet know Withal, since thy original lapse, true liberty is lost, which always with right reason dwells twinned, and from her hath no individual being. Reason in man obscured, or not obeyed, immediately inordinate desires and upstart passions catch the government. From reason and to servitude reduce man till then free. Therefore, since he permits within himself unworthy powers to reign over free reason, God in judgment just subjects him from without to violent lords, who oft as undeservedly enthrall his outward freedom. Tyranny must be, though to the tyrant thereby no excuse, yet sometimes nations will decline so low from virtue, which is reason, that no wrong but justice and some fatal curse annexed deprives them of their outward liberty, their inward lost. Witness the irreverent son of him who built the ark, who, for the shame done to his father, heard this heavy curse, servant of servants, on his virtuous race. Thus will this latter, as the former world, still tend from bad to worse, till God at last, wearied with their iniquities, withdraw his presence from among them, and avert his holy eyes, resolving from thenceforth to leave them to their own polluted ways, and one peculiar nation to select from all the rest, of whom to be invoked a nation from one faithful man to spring, him on this side Euphrates, yet residing, bred up in idol worship. O that men, canst thou believe, should be so stupid grown, while yet the patriarch lived who scaped the flood, as to forsake the living God, and fall to worship their own work in wood and stone, for gods. Yet him God the most high vouchsafes to call by vision from his father's house, by his kindred and false gods, into a land which he will show him, and from him will raise a mighty nation, and upon him shower his benediction, so that in his seed all nations shall be blessed. He straight obeys, not knowing to what land, yet firm believes. I see him, but thou canst not. With what faith he leaves his gods, his friends and native soil, of Chaldea, passing now the ford to Haran, after a cumbrous train of herds and flocks, and numerous servitude, not wandering poor, but trusting all his wealth with God, who called him in a land unknown. Canaan he now attains. I see his tents, pitched about Shechem, and the neighboring plain of Moreh. There by promise he receives gifts to his progeny, of all that land, from Hamath northward to the desert south. Things by their names I call, though yet unnamed. From Hermon east to the great western sea, Mount Hermon, yonder sea, each place behold in prospect, as I point them, on the shore, Mount Carmel. Here the double-founted stream, Jordan, true limit eastward, but his sons shall dwell to Senir. That long ridge of hills, this ponder, that all nations of the earth shall in his seed be blessed. By that seed is meant thy great deliverer, who shall bruise the serpent's head, whereof to thee anon plainlier shall be revealed, this patriarch blessed, whom faithful Abraham due time shall call. A son, and of his son a grandchild leaves, like him in faith, in wisdom and renown. The grandchild with 12 sons increased departs from Canaan, to a land hereafter called Egypt, divided by the river Nile. See where it flows, disgorging at 7 mouths into the sea. To sojourn in that land he comes invited by a younger son, in time of dearth, a son whose worthy deeds raise him to be the second in that realm of Pharaoh. There he dies and leaves his race growing into a nation, and now grown, suspected to a sequent king, who seeks to stop their overgrowth, as inmate guests too numerous, whence of guests he makes them slaves inhospitably, and kills their infant males, till by 2 brethren, those 2 brethren call, Moses and Aaron, sent from God to claim his people from enthrallment, they return with glory and spoil back to their promised land. But first the lawless tyrant, who denies to know their God, or message to regard, must be compelled by signs and judgments dire, to blood Unshed the rivers must be turned. Frogs, lice, and flies must all his palace fill with loathed intrusion, and fill all the land. His cattle must of rot and murrain die. Botches and blains must all his flesh emboss, and all his people. Thunder mixed with hail, hail mixed with fire, must rend the Egyptian sky, and wheel on the earth, devouring where it rolls. What it devours not, herb or fruit or grain, a darksome cloud of locusts swarming down must eat, and on the ground leave nothing green. Darkness must overshadow all his bounds, palpable darkness, and blot out 3 days. Last with one midnight stroke, all the firstborn of Egypt must lie dead. Thus with 10 wounds the river dragon tamed at length submits to let his sojourners depart, and oft humbles his stubborn heart, but still as ice, more hardened after thaw, till in his rage pursuing whom he late dismissed, the sea swallows him with his host, but lets them pass, as on dry land, between 2 crystal walls, awed by the rod of Moses, so to stand divided, till his rescued gain their shore.